After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. After 20 minutes, the leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg's unbearable. I start passing the clicker back and forth, trying to distract myself from the pain, right? Now, one thing I haven't told you is from the brain injury, I got double vision, which means I get the pleasure of seeing 2 of you, which means I can't see this clicker going back and forth at all. I'm feeling this out, man. And this is my lifeline, which I didn't really appreciate. And as the pain ratchets up, my throat's getting more enthusiastic, right? So eventually, inevitably, I drop the clicker and it lands on the hard linoleum floor. Shit. Look over the edge of the bed, I see the clicker there lying on the floor looking back at me. If I can only get to that clicker, I can end this pain, I can end this atrocity. Only problem was the fall from that height might break my arm, I thought. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance of breaking my arm, a coin flip. Not the best odds. I changed tack, so I'm trying to do the splint, but it's under the ankle, not the hip. I'm not that flexible, I can't reach to and tie it. Help! Help, man. The war of the Wilson was an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side. Short on this side, long on this side. They're the far in the war, they can't hear me out for help. I decided I'm going to flip the coin, I'm going to go for that splint, because that's the only thing in this world that matters to me right now is that splint. It might break my arm, so be it. This splint needs to come out of my leg now, not in 30 minutes, but right now. Lower myself off the edge of the bed.
The Tom Screen podcast is owned and made possible by Ethical Marketing Service. If your business is struggling with Google or Facebook ads, maybe you're frustrated figuring it out or there's a performance issue, Ethical Marketing Service has worked on hundreds of accounts and we can help in this area. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you would like to find out if we can help, it's a free, no salesy consultation call and the link is in the description. Enjoy the episode. Thomas Green here with Ethical Marketing Service. On the episode today, we have Daniel MacQueen. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very much my pleasure. Would you like to take a moment and tell the audience a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a motivational speaker based in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I've been doing gigs remotely, speaking about adversity, mindset, and resilience, something that's quite dear to my heart after I suffered a traumatic brain injury in London in 2014. So that's kind of who I am and what I'm doing with the show today.
Okay. Well, in looking at your content and everything, you've got some great speeches. I love the motivational talks. I think you're great. Would you like to, for those that haven't seen them yet, would you like to share perhaps a bit about your story or what that might look like?
Yeah, for sure, of course. So my story takes place in London, England, jolly old. On the tube one day, going to Notting Hill, and my vision fades to black. I make my way to the platform and I realize I can't see shit. And I wait a few minutes thinking, what am I going to do here? This is pretty wild. After 3 minutes, the vision comes back. But I knew something's wrong here. This isn't a normal batch of headaches that I was having. I've been having headaches before this that were getting worse, and I had gone to A&E twice, or A&E once, really. They thought it was vertigo and they sent me home, but then this happened in between. So the next day I went back to A&E. Like, hey, there's something going on here. This is not proper, what's going on here. And they ran the same test. They thought it was vertigo. They sent me home, but they told me on the way out, I could always get my eyes checked at an optometrist should that continue, right? An optometrist, I thought, that's kind of odd. The eyes are an extension of the brain. So as midway through the exam, the optometrist, Mr. Patel, stops at midway through, right? He leaves himself in the room, and he comes back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope. And he goes, you need to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Well, tell a lie. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child, a bite to eat and a phone charger. I figured I'd be in for a bit of wait. Made my way to Moorfields Hospital. They ran the same tests and escalated me up to Charing Cross Hospital. It turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my head, in my pineal gland. Turns out I required emergency brain surgery tomorrow. It turns out my world about to change altogether. Sent the last text message to my mom in Canada. I'll see you soon, Mom. I think I'll have a New York next time I see it. So, Mom was in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014. I was on the operating table. Something went horribly wrong, and I had a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. Then the cyst burst when they operated. No one lands and finds I'm in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks. I was in and out of consciousness for months after this. Things were dicey, touch and go. When all was said and done, I was learning how to walk, talk, and smile again. It's kind of a good starting up point for us.
That's intense, and thank you for sharing it. The sealed envelope. What was the story behind that? Did you have to forward that on, and someone else opened it, or what does it say?
Yeah, so I gave it to the Moorfields Hospital, and I guess that was like the eye measurements they had gotten, which indicate a massive pressure in the brain because the eyes are an extension of the brain, right? So like,
okay,
he ran that test. They were off the charts. He goes, "Yeah, we need to get this escalated." Mr. Patel, I actually ended up going to visit him in Specsavers. I think it was Shepherd's Bush branch or Hammersmith branch. But he caught all this after it was missed by a knee, so it was pretty serious that he found this.
Do you feel any frustration or anger to the people that sent you home twice?
No. Because what good is that going to do? They asked me when this happened, like, do you want to follow up with like any malpractice suits or whatever have you? And I'm like, no. Because this card was in my hand. This card was in my hand and it was going to go off. And look, mistakes were made here. But at the end of the day, it's not going to undo what happened to me. And they saved my life a number of times in the hospital. So it's like, I kind of realized like I'd rather move forward in my life than like worry about woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of stuff. Because that's a sorry way to live your life, is a woulda, coulda, shoulda vibe. So I decided to just move forward with it. It makes sense.
Exemplary behavior. Exactly what I expect from everything I know about you so far. The question, it might be a bit of a dumb question, but I've never spoken to anyone, as far as I'm aware, who has been in a coma for 4 weeks. And the question is do you have any conscious knowledge that you're sleeping at any point? Is it just like going to sleep one night and waking up the following morning, but someone tells you that a longer time has passed?
Yeah, so I had some weird dreams in the coma. One that sticks to mind was I was in a submarine. And on the submarine, there was a massive aquarium. And I couldn't understand why there was a massive aquarium on the submarine while I was underwater. Like, this doesn't make any bloody sense. You guys are underwater already. So, I don't know what that means. You can read into that what you will. I had a feeding tube put down my nose to feed me. And I hated the feeding tube. And I'd rip it up. Once, twice, 3 times. I put mitts around my hand so I couldn't rip it up. But I would work on these mitts for days, inching my way down so I could break through the mittens. And once I could break through the mittens, I'd rip up the cord. But every time they'd rip up the cord, they'd have to put it down. They have to aspirate me to make sure it was in my stomach and my lungs. So I lost a ton of weight. I just remember having that moment of just once you get it out of your nose for like 2 seconds, you're bliss. And then the process of putting it back down, there it goes again. So it's not fun. But no, I can't say I remember too much beyond that. It was a hazy moment in my life. And I woke up from the coma to see my mom, dad, brother on the bed. And I go to my brother, I go, "You." I'm trying to talk, but I can't talk. My vocal cords took a little while to come back. And I go, "Give me a pen and paper." So I'm trying to talk, can't talk. And they go, "Here's a pen and paper." Right on the pen and paper, I go, "Get me out of here." And I share it with the camera. And I go, "Yeah, but you. Let's make this happen out of here now." Because like I just look around like this is like in a foreign country. This looks expensive. Let's get the hell out of Dodge. I just got like flight mode off the hop or fight mode off the hop. Like I was like, let's get out of here now. Needless to say, I was in the hospital for months after this, so it was pretty good. He didn't try to bust me out.
Well, the everything that you've sort of shared is a little bit intimidating, but at the same time, the hard work comes when you wake up, right? So, what's that process like of you? I think you described it as adversity, but what is that like?
Yeah, like it's the hard work is when you wake up for sure. Like it's you stay alive in the coma, but you don't know what you're doing there. You're just along for the ride. You're on the ship's left the station, the track, the car's on the tracks. Like you're on the track, you're on the car, you're on the ride rather. And when you wake up, you kind of realize, like, look, this isn't a good situation. What happened to you? Like the brain hemorrhage is not an ideal situation. That being said, like I couldn't walk, talk, or smile right now. I couldn't walk, talk, or smile for the first few weeks. Danny had a brain hemorrhage, like you were in a coma, like this is not good. You're like conscious now, but like we don't know what your recovery is gonna look like. But like I realized quite early on, like it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. And that's not my line, that's an Epictetus line, a Stoic philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of understanding that like stuff will happen in life, but it's not good or bad, it's what you think about it, right? It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. And so I was very intentional with not letting myself go down the pity spiral. And the pity spiral is what I call the woe is me, woulda, coulda, shoulda vibe of like, well, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. It's like, you're right. It's not fair. But you got to follow it up with one more question. That's, and what? And what do you expect to have happen now because it's not fair? Well, this never happens to Jim or this never happens to so-and-so. And it's like, okay, cool. And? Well, what am I supposed to do? Like, you just kind of run into ants pretty quickly. It's like, what are you going to do, man? And I realized, like, I can't be poopy pants about this whole situation. I got to kind of, like, take it in stride and move on with this. And that's what I've tried to do and trying to do now.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great attitude. I kind of feel a little bit like I'm not taking that piece of advice on by asking this next question, but I'm just interested, which is why I'm asking. Did you ever do any investigation into the cause, or is it not possible to realize what the cause was?
Well, I had a genetic code in my vibe that was a growth in my pineal gland, which is what drains the fluid from your brain. Pineal gland is also the third eye, which is like a bit mystic on you there. This would prevent the fluid from my brain draining. That caused the pressure to build up and cause the pressure in the eyes. This is in my genetic code, and this was like a ticking time bomb. It was going to go off eventually. The weekend before this, I was in Lithuania, where I'm certain the outcome would have been different. Actually, much to my surprise, Lithuania is a very beautiful and modern country. Very beautiful city. Check it out in the summertime. But like, I couldn't have done anything to mitigate this happening. I mean, maybe they could have caught it when I went to A&E, but they didn't. And such is life.
So how long before you're walking and talking again?
Well, the walking took maybe a couple weeks. They told my parents initially, like, look, he may not be a talker anymore because his vocal cords are fried from the breathing tube that was put down there. He may not be a talker anymore. And the Kiwi nurse goes, I'll get him talking. She's talking to my parents a little while. She kind of understood my vibe. She goes, I'll get him talking again. Took me down to the park in my wheelchair, and she goes, those kids across the park down? I'm like, yeah. Playing football. They don't think you're good enough to talk, Dan. They don't think you're good enough to talk. And I kind of realized that struck a chord, and I realized that that's a big motivator for me, and I realized that that's a big trigger for me. So, like, even now to this day, I know, like, if you want me to do something, like, tell me I can't do something, and be like, cool. I will go scorched earth on your ass to make sure this happens. But that took a few weeks, and then walking took maybe 3-4 months from the initial hemorrhage. What had happened was my leg had atrophied in the coma, so it would have bent at an angle, and it was non-viable, my left leg. So it was not functional. So I wear a splint 1 hour a night to help stretch out the leg muscle, which was horrifically painful. Now, the first night I wore the splint through the night, no issue, no stress. This will be easy. I thought this will be easy. The second night, after 20 minutes, it was painful. After 30 minutes, it was dreadful. After 40 minutes, it was unbearable. I took the splint off. On the third night, they wrapped my leg, give me the clicker, the nurse call button. And they go patrol the Wilson ward. Now, the Wilson ward was an L shape, so short on this side, longer on this side, okay? Short on this side, longer on this side. They leave me in the hospital room that smells like only a hospital room can smell. Sanitized, sterilized. It's clean, but you wonder what sort of atrocities have been covered up under the guise of this cleanliness smell. After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. After 20 minutes, the leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg's unbearable. I started passing the clicker back and forth, trying to shock myself from the pain, right? Now, one thing I haven't told you is from the brain injury, I got double vision, which means I get the pleasure of seeing 2 of which means I can't see this clicker going back and forth at all. I'm feeling this out, man. And this is my lifeline, which I didn't really appreciate. And as the pain ratchets up, my throat's getting more enthusiastic, right? So eventually, inevitably, I drop the clicker and it lands on the hard linoleum floor. Shit. Look over the edge of the bed, I see the clicker there lying on the floor looking back at me. If I can only get to that clicker, I can end this pain, I can end this atrocity. Only problem was the fall from that height might break my arm, I thought. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance of breaking my arm, a coin flip. Not the best odds. I changed tack, so I'm trying to do the splint, but it's under the ankle, not the hip. I'm not that flexible, I can't reach to and tie it. Help! Help! The ward of the Wilson was an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side. Short on this side, long on this side. They're the far end of the ward, they can't hear me out for help. I decided I'm going to flip the coin. I'm going to go for that splint because that's the only thing in this world that matters to me right now is that splint. It might break my arm, so be it. This splint needs to come out of the leg now, not in 30 minutes, but right now. Lower myself off the edge of the bed, crash down in a heap. It's a yard sale, blankets, wires, cables, it's all to go. The arm holds. And I hammer the clicker, expecting the nurses to come bursting into the room to come and rescue me. They kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. What are you doing on the floor, love? Exactly how they sounded, their accents. But I told them, let's not worry about that. Let's get the splint off my leg, please, and I'll tell you all about this. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to the matters, right? I learned 3 lessons from this experience, right? The first being, let's not pass the clicker back and forth. Pretty evident one there. The second one was let's do the splint tip at the hip, not the ankle. That way I can undo this shit that's happening going forwards. And the third and probably most profound was let's always be solutions oriented from this moment onwards going forwards. How can you fix your problem? Not what your problem is. Look back at it and understand why it happened after the fact. But in the moment of decision, the moment of pain, the moment of strife, be solutions oriented. And how can you fix that? And I've carried that forward with me from that moment onwards, which is pretty key. But that's it, to kind of show you how painful this leg was to get back to walking, right? I would flip a coin if I could break my arm to end the splint on my leg. That's how painful this was to wear on a nightly basis for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. It was arduous, difficult, strenuous, but like I wanted to improve my lot. I wanted to show that I'm trying here. I rehab during the day and wore the splint at night and tried to take steps forward, but like it was a grind, man. It was a grind. There's no 2 ways about it. Like this was, I never whinged about anything in the hospital with the splint. I would be like, oh, this bloody splint. I can't handle this bloody splint. Because that's how painful this thing was. I was willing to break my arm to get the splint off my leg. It's a bit of a rant for you there.
Well, I think the story is amazing and you tell it great. I wonder at what point do you realize or think about the fact that your story can help others or teach others?
All the time. That's why I'm a speaker now. I think like the lessons I've learned through this experience are like, they're not whimsical little, this might be helpful for you. This is like mic drop, like, holy smokes, this is how you look at life now? It's like, yeah, this is how I look at life. And I had a lot of help to get back from it today, right? A lot of help. My parents came from Vancouver to London for 2 years to be there with me, rehab and all this stuff. Work was super supportive. I had everything in my favor working towards me to help me get better. If you don't have that, man, you're screwed. Like, you are screwed. Like, I've struggled so mightily through this process. And, like, I had a lot of help. If you don't have the help, then you're hooped. That's why I'm driven to talk now, because I want to share the lessons I've learned with you. Because, like, this isn't impossible. It may look impossible. There was moments in time when I wasn't sure I'd make it out of this alive. 100%. 100%. I was hanging on the wall. I don't know if this breaks for me, man. I don't know if it breaks for me. But I kept holding on because I'm like, you're not going to let go of the wall. You're going to hold on until you can't hold on any longer. And eventually, I got back off the wall. If you don't have the help, you're hooped. And that's why I'm giving the talks now, because I want to share the lessons I've learned with you. And like, not leaving them left on the sidelines of life, right?
Well, as if one brain surgery wasn't enough, you've actually had two. So how did the second one come about?
Yeah, so this was a tough moment. So after a year of rehab, right? A year since the first brain hemorrhage, out of the hospital in 6 months, back at home rehabbing, doing vocational, occupational therapy, physical therapy, trying to get my strength back in my leg, learning how to walk with a cane and an eye patch. I'm building myself back up. I'm back to work 2 half days a week, 3 half days a week. Not doing much at work. I'm kind of looking at emails and being social, meeting in the office. And then second setback happens. And by setback, I mean I was found unconscious in my flat by my mom. The shunt into my brain had blocked the hydrocephalus, or water on the brain. It's serious business. As a result, I got myself an ambulance ride, another bad haircut for the brain surgery, and a new medical alert bracelet, which I still wear to this day. Just check for a blocked VP shunt. So I woke up in that hospital bed hearing the beeping noise of the heart rate monitor going off behind me. Beep, beep, beep. What happened? What happened? What happened? Well, Dan, you had a second brain surgery. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, we got the blockage, but there was a blockage in your shunt. And I go, all my progress is washed away. I've been working for a year to get back to work. A year to build my life back up from this huge tragedy, right? We got the blockage. But like, this felt like the carpet was ripped underneath my legs. Like, all my progress was washed away in an instant. Like, it was gone. Like, it was never there. Like, I was so low at this stage of the game. I can't tell you how difficult this was to navigate and to like keep my mindset pure. To not go down the pity spiral, the woe is me situation in this situation. But it's not fair. You're right. But by saying it's not fair and wishing it didn't happen, it's not an adequate way to resolve it or get better. You're prolonging the inevitable, like the work that you got to put in to get through this, right? I stayed down this pity spiral for about a week, right? I was pretty low for about a week. I described my recovery like a W. So the first setback was the first tip of the W. I climbed back up to work, halfway up back to the W. And the second setback, where the first one was much lower. I call this the depths of the human experience, right? Where all your hopes and dreams are snickered at. Where like everything in your life you thought was good. No, you thought you had a chance there, bud. Like, nah, we got you back down here, brother. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And it took every ounce of my mental strength to not go down the pity spiral, to be negative and woes me and like, well, screw this. I guess the world's out to get me. But it's not fair. You're right. But guess what? No one's coming to save you, man. So eventually, after about a week, I kind of got myself back up together and I realized, you know what? I've done this before. I know how to do this. I know how to rehab. The progress may be washed away, but my mindset of how to do this is not gone. I know how to think about this and to navigate this in a more pragmatic way. So eventually started back with rehab and I got back to doing that and slowly but surely build my way back up and incrementally build myself back up to work. After a few months, maybe a few months after the setback, go back to work. And I've been climbing ever since, man. But like, it's the mindset is so key for this, right? Because like, look, there was a moment where I was like, is this, maybe I just throw on my paper, like, well, I guess the world's out to get me now. But like, I'm stubborn. Probably the biggest reason why I'm here is I'm stubborn. I'm like, you know what? I'm not letting this beat me. And now I talk about the brain hemorrhage in such lighting and joking light because it's like, hey man, you ain't shit. Like, you tried to get me twice and you didn't get me. So like, I'm going to talk about you and disrespect you in front of everyone, laugh in your face. Like I talk about this in such a disrespectful tone, but like, it's not because it was light or easy, but it's because like, I want to let it know that like, you ain't shit, man. Like you try to get me, like, yeah, almost got me there, bud. There's this one, my left leg where the splint has got, the thigh's covered in tattoos now. I've got that all covered in tattoos. There's one tattoo I wanted to get that I didn't get yet. That's this Grim Reaper with the Hawaiian shirt on. This says "Not today," and I still want to get that. So I think next time I go back to London, I'm gonna get that with Danny Quippo in East London. So that's my next vibe for the tattoo. But it's a reminder that like you're stronger than you think, and a reminder to the deaf, like, hey, not today, brother, not today. But this was all mental, and I translated that into the physical gains as well.
It's an amazing story, and I'm very glad that you did. Have you ever received any feedback from others in terms of what your story has meant to them?
Yeah, so I'm a speaker now, but like the reason why I'm a speaker is because I started giving this talk to my outpatient group at Wolfson Rehab Center. Shout out Wolfson Rehab Center. And after I gave the talk one time, I got feedback from the organizer saying like, Dan, after your talk, one of our participants who used to swim all the time said he's going to try to go back to the pool because it took so much longer to get back and swimming ready than it did before. He's going to try to do that again because like that was really difficult. And one other patient said, your phrase "no" doesn't mean forever, it just means right now. It was really helpful. And like that's important to me to have that because like I had a lot of help to get back up to where I'm at today, right? And like, if you don't have that help, man, you're finished. And if I can give you those lessons I've learned, like by now, like, hey, maybe you can get yourself up to where I'm at now. And like, I'm not back to where I'm at yet. Like, I'm still climbing, man. But like, what are you going to come at me with that I can't overcome or deal with? Like, what are you going to intimidate me with? It's like, cool. You think this scares me? Like, I've literally walked it back twice from the brink of existence. I'm like, what are you going to scare me with now? Like, this is like scary for me. Like, no, I don't know. I want to chase it. I want to earn it. I want to improve. I want to better than yesterday. What I'm chasing now, right? And it's like every day I'm trying to be better than yesterday. With my talks, with my methodology, with my startup sequence. Like I meditate every day. Like so, I have a startup sequence for the day. My morning routine is very routine based. Today wasn't as extravagant as it was because this interview is a bit earlier than I would have liked. Well, a bit earlier than I normally get up. No disrespect because you're in the UK. But I woke up, cold showered, and showered cold, and then meditated for like 20 minutes. But I meditate every day now as like a routine-based thing, right? That's like a better than yesterday kind of vibe. I've learned through trial and error. But through trial and through error, I've buggered up a few times, and that's why I know that meditation is a key part of my vibe. If I don't meditate, I'm not as crisp as I could be. For the podcast, which is like, going to live forever in front of millions of people, no doubt. So I want to be fresh, I want to be sharp, and I want to like put my best self forward, and that's through meditation and through trial and error. Right?
Well, I think that when you're focused on your recovery, my perception is that you're focused on only that. My question is around, have you ever spoken to your parents about their experience through all of this?
Yeah, they've helped me with my talk quite a lot. Like honestly, I've had a tough time going through the talk that I give and like reliving the stuff that we talked through. And like, I've got pictures and slides that kind of go through like those ICU units, and like they say it was horrible. When I was in a coma, they had to keep my core temperature down below 40 degrees. Otherwise, it'd be brain damage, right? So this led to ice blankets above and below me and led to violent shivering for about a week. I was in a coma, violent shivering. They say this was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Like, hooked up to 13 tubes and hoses. The doctors constantly told my parents, like, look, he may not make it through this. Setting expectations here, he may not make it through this. And if so, what quality of life is he going to have? We don't know. When I got out of the hospital, it's like, when I got out of the ICU, it's like, I couldn't walk. Well, the nurse told my friend Milos the week, like, yeah, he probably won't be able to walk unassisted for the rest of his life. Like, This was dire. This was grim. This is horrific. This is an atrocity to live through for my parents. I apologize by talking about it all the time. But I need you to know if you find yourself down in a dark hole, there's a way through this and you can navigate this and get out of the hole, because I did these tests. I'm going a bit off piece here, but apologies. I did these tests maybe last year this time at a brain injury clinic in Surrey, BC. Very top end clinic. I actually gave a talk to them last week. NeuroConnect in Surrey, BC. These brain scans with this little cap on, they put gel in there, and they read out these terms like cat, dog, cucumber, pear, and then they look at your brain, see if there's a connection there, and see if there's a connection between the two of them. And my results came back as average for my group, which is really good for a guy with a brain injury, right? 2 brain injuries, average is pretty damn good, right? But I was expecting there to be some big outliers, some big ups and downs, I've recovered so well, there's going to be some big outliers here, some big ups and downs, right? But shockingly average is what I read into this. And I kind of looked into more, and I realized, this is actually pretty good, because that means that I'm no smarter or better than anyone that I'm speaking with. I'm just driven and have chosen to go forwards. I'm not smarter or gifted. I'm just driven to go forwards. And that means that you can do this too. That means that everything that I've done is not by gift, it's by work. And that means that you can do it too. And that's why I'm driven to talk, is because, look, this may look dark and bleak and it may look impossible, but if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you can get through this. And that's my why is pretty big with this, right? And the why is so huge, and it's me driven to share this message because you can do this too. Why not?
Well, on that note, at what point do you decide to become a speaker, and when you step out for the first time amongst people, what's that like?
Yeah, so I was giving this talk, as I mentioned, to my outpatient group for about a couple of years before I became a full-time speaker. Now, I give once a quarter to them, new outpatient group, and I go on live to the Wilson Rehab Center. And I got a lot of value from that, and I could see eyes light up with certain phrases and turns of phrase and hacks that I would give and share and stuff like this, and they really kind of lit a light with this. And I dove full time into speaking after last year. I let go from my Hootsuite job in tech, my tech job at Hootsuite, and I was let go part of a corporate restructuring. 400 people lost their job on that day. I was on the wrong side of a spreadsheet and asked to see the door. My whole job across the company got let go. And I was there for 9 years, right? So I was a bit devastated by this. But I realized after a boozy lunch, I'm a motivational speaker tomorrow, which means I need a computer today. So went down, had a few drinks, and went down to the store to pick up a new computer, because I'm a speaker tomorrow. And I may have played up the fact that I was a bit devastated by the job loss for a few months to get some time and bandwidth in their cover. Maybe not. But I kind of realized that what a great opportunity to dive in this full time. I wouldn't have had the balls to quit my job and dive in this full time had I not got let go from my job at Hootsuite, right? So every negative situation is almost, I don't want to say there's a silver lining and everything, but if you look at it in a certain light, why not? This, I'm only a speaker now because I got let go from that job at Hootsuite, which was a job I had for 9 years, which is security, which is a safety blanket. But now I'm doing what I'm really called to do. My passion, my purpose in life is to speak, I think, and to share this knowledge and these lessons learned. So it's if you hold on long enough, everything bad will have some sort of whiplash that will show you some good with it, right? And that's tough to hear when you're down a dark hole, because you don't know my situation down. It's hey, I get it. Maybe your situation is the worst in the world and the toughest ever, for sure. Maybe it is. Or maybe you can shift your perspective a little bit. Maybe this is not the death blow you think it is. Maybe if you hold on a bit longer, it will open up and show you the whole new world that's over here, right? That's why I speak, and that's what I'm driven to do here.
And have you got any aspirations, speaking-wise?
Yeah, I'd like to the TED stage if I can. And I caught up with a friend of mine a couple of months, probably last year about this time. He heard me talk at Hootsuite before I let go. And he was, Dan, I want to see you in MSG. And I'm like, that sounds pretty good. That's audacious as hell. The more I thought, I was like, yeah, MSG sounds pretty good. So like, I've got big aspirations. I got big ambition. I got big fire. Like, why not? Why not?
If you do a TED talk, please do send it to me. I'd love to watch that. But I do have a follow-up about swallowing the hairy frog. What is this?
Yeah. So this is a good story. Motivation or momentum is a big part of my vibe, right? With a brain injury, you gotta have momentum to keep things going, to keep things carried over from like when you're active and doing stuff, right? So Monday morning before work, I would used to go swimming before work. And that's what I called, well, I'll dive into why I call that a swallowed frog. But I would wake up at 5 o'clock, go to the pool, swim lengths, and then I go to the pool for like a 9 a.m. start. So it was a pretty early morning. On the lift going down to the ground level with my HR manager one day, and I had all these bags, there's 2 bags that I would swim with, this big bag. So what's all this for, Dad? I'm like, well, I went swimming this morning before work. And she goes, oh, you swallowed hairy frog. And I go, excuse me? She goes, oh, you swallowed hairy frog. And I go, that's not a thing. So here's the dog, yes. Swallow the frog, yes. She's combined them into one and created this swallowed hairy frog. So I've created this mug for her that's this frog that's combing his hairy back to remind her how much smack she talks, and I gave it to her as a gift. Swallowed hairy frog. So from that one onwards, my early morning swim row is known as swallowed hairy frog, but it's to kind of indicate that momentum is a big part of your vibe. And swallowed hairy frog is doing the most difficult task in the day first thing in the morning, and that's swallowed hairy frog.
Thank you for that. You referenced your morning routine a couple of times. I am trying to implement something because I spoke to a previous guest who gave me a good breakdown. What would you recommend as a best practice regarding morning routines, and what has it meant for you?
Well, first and foremost, sleep is the most important thing for me. I've got a Whoop strap, which is like a wearable fitness tracker that like helps me track my sleep, rest, recovery, strain. And sleep is the 1, 2, and 3 for me. For brain injury guys, sleep is the most important thing. So if I sleep poorly, I'll punt my routine to sleep more. First and foremost, okay, I'm not like ride or die with this routine. Like I will adapt it depending on how I slept. But normally I would wake up, go for an exercise, go for a shower, end the shower cold, come out and meditate for 20 minutes, have a full breakfast on my day, and start my day that way. And it's routine based because I want to eliminate the bandwidth I'm using to think about my routine in the morning. I want to just kind of dive into stuff and jump into things and do that. But meditation's a non-negotiable. That's almost every day. There are some days I will miss it, but we'll do it later in the day to kind of catch up. But do what kind of works for you. You got to kind of trial and error is how I figured this out. So trial what works best for you. But sleep is the 1, 2, and 3 for me, and that's how I track this in the Whoop Trapper. I'm happy to report that I slept 98% last night. And I had 93% recovery, which is phenomenally high ratings on both the cords. So like I'm doing something right here, man.
Glad to hear it. Is there anything that I should have asked you about today?
No, I think you covered a lot of good stuff, man. Like I think like the main thing I want to get across to your audience is like it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters, right? It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Like you'd be hard pressed to find a situation where it's dire. That's not true. Let me back that up. Life will throw stuff your way that may seem impossible to navigate and overcome. May seem impossible, but like don't give into it. Don't let it get that final straw. Don't fail forward. Like hold on, and eventually it will break. Eventually it will break, or you're dead and you don't know either way, right? Hold on, and it broke for me, man. Like I can't tell you how dire I thought this was, how dead to rights I thought I was. Like I'm hooped here. I'm like I don't think I can get through the situation, but I held on and I get through the situation. It's a part of everything I do now is just like this vibe, like that's all you got, bring it on, bud. Like I relish that underdog vibe, that I'm not good enough vibe, and like let me show you how we can do this and navigate the situation. So that's the message I want to get to across your audience is that one there.
It's a great message, and I love to hear you talk, which, considering what your job title is, that's a fairly good thing, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
For people who want to follow you or get in touch, where do they go?
I've got a website, MacQueen Dan, MacQueen Dan.com. MacQueen Dan across the socials, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Okay, Dan, well, thank you for being a great guest today, and thank you for telling your story.
Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.